Daily stock market update on December the 17th before US market open without the fluff. We're going to look at UK, US commodities, where the money's flowing and what it means for your portfolio. Now, the FTSE 100 is surging. It's still already at all-time highs, but back in April, it was at 2019 levels. So the issue is what's driving all of this. At the moment, that 1.3, 1.5% rise, which in index terms, the FTSE 100, is pretty unusual to have such a large move. And this is because UK inflation fell. And that's not what was expected. It fell to about 3.2%. The problem is inflation figures are notoriously pretty useless because they don't necessarily measure what people are actually buying. They're a basket of things that central bankers think people might be buying. In any event, that's the random number that they focus on when they're considering interest rate cuts. So the idea is interest rates will fall, therefore you'll be paying less on your mortgage, for instance, so you'd have more money to spend in the shops, or businesses will be paying less on their borrowings, so they'll have more money to invest. More money goes around the system, good for stocks, good for profitability, good for the stock market. So that's been rather good. Sterling is also weaker. Currency traders are now definitely pricing in an interest rate cut. Why would that impact sterling? Well, presumably fewer people want to hold pounds if you're getting less interest on holding your pounds. So overseas investors would sell, or rather traders would sell the pound. The impact of that actually should have some movements on stock prices, because obviously a lot of the FTSE 100 companies earn their profits in dollars because America's our largest trading partner, particularly for those big 100 companies. And therefore, when you do the currency conversion, it should have some impact on stock prices. But it's all coming out in the wash with the stock market surging in any event. The ones leading the gains, well, bank stocks are up. Better for banks if there's fewer defaults and there's more economic activity. So that's one of the reasons. One of the other reasons that has been put towards this has been valuation, that maybe they've just lagged in some of the valuation. This has not changed any of my outlooks. If out of my 10,000 companies that we go through, UK, US, European, British companies happen to bubble to the top 200 on valuation, growth and income, then so be it. If they don't, then I'm afraid they don't, and we end up having to ignore them. On the US markets, not much happening overnight. The big issue at the moment is still interest rates. Are they going to be cut by the Federal Reserve going into the future? More importantly, in the near term, what's the indication that the easing cycle, as they call it, the cuts are slowing down? Now, there's pros and cons on both sides of this. There were more jobs created last month, but unemployment overall has risen to 4.6% in the US, which I believe is a 5-year high. So that would suggest cut rates. Lower rates is what the market cares about at the moment until earnings seasons start again, which of course in the US happens every quarter. So when that happens, we'll care about earnings. We'll care about something. The stock market is like a goldfish, a very short memory. And at the moment, this is the flavor of the moment. So there's nothing which is causing me to change my outlook on the companies and the stocks that I own. That's the point that I'm making. NASDAQ, slight gains. There's nothing to suggest the music's about to stop and the party is about to end, as happened in January 2022. But the reason we keep a close eye on these things is just in case something, while we're looking over here, hits us from this side. Silver and gold miners are doing well. This is just because the safe haven flow into those. It's not actually a safe haven flow. If you think about it, why would people be looking for a safe haven when the stock market is at all-time highs and profitability is backing or underwriting those stock market moves up? It's momentum which is now running silver and gold prices. And specifically, you've got two causes for the movements in gold. One, momentum, as I've mentioned. Traders, short-termers, people who are late to the party, and then more substantively, Chinese buying, to some extent, Indian buying. though the Indian buying will be tempered by the fact that the rupee is at all-time lows against the US dollar, and you're going to need more rupees to buy gold. So the Indians are probably going to ease off on some of that gold buying, though internally within the market itself, there'll be ample stock to be sold and resold. But the point is, I wouldn't want to have more than 5% gold in my portfolio in any event, and you'd want to do it capital gains tax free. So you got to buy the right gold coins, and you'd want to be holding it for the long term. Sterling, US dollar, as I mentioned, sterling is down slightly. Oil prices have jumped up a little bit. Crude is higher again on the news of Trump, Venezuelan oil blockades and the like. Nothing significant, absolutely nothing to worry about from a stock market perspective, because until it goes above $80 a barrel there, we're not bothered. Silver is now above $65. Gold is also up, as I mentioned. Copper is at all-time highs. Exchange traded funds, if you're interested in those, would be the way to go. You're a bit late to the party, and you probably don't want to have more than 5% exposure unless you're just taking a punt and a gamble, in which case this video is not for you in any event. Crypto, nothing much happening with Bitcoin and Ethereum at the moment. You'd think if there was a concern about safe haven, surely crypto was meant to be the safe haven as well as gold. They're certainly not moving in tandem. And I doubt the crypto buyers are buying gold all of a sudden, though some of them are. They've got a bucket load of money with which to do it, and that's where the momentum trade side of it comes in as well. Okay, so what's on the news wires that might concern us or draw to our attention? Anything beyond what I've already mentioned. If I look at CNBC and I look at Bloomberg, looking first at Bloomberg, US readiness for new Russia sanctions. It's the old circle. If Putin rejects peace deal, Putin will obviously reject the peace deal. The West has never really understood the rest of the world outside of its own borders, or sought to understand it. Putin's not going to accept the peace deal. I can tell you that now. And so that continues, but it's not impacting the stock market. Defense spending continues higher. We need it whether or not Putin accepts the peace deal. He's not suddenly said, I'm a good boy now. So that's not going to change anything, which means the hard defense companies and the software defense companies, the cybersecurities, the Palantirs, the Palo Alto Networks, those types of companies, in and of themselves are worth looking at, but they'll only appear in my database if out of 10,000 companies, it's like an admission into my pension is the same as an admission into, I don't know, Oxford University. You're going to have to be one of the top 200. And those won't necessarily make that, because there's a lot of competition to be the top 200 by value growth income within this. Just as an aside, it was interesting. There's some nuclear startups. The company called Radiant has raised $300 million for small reactors. Now, that's a classic narrative story, which will get somebody having a punt and speculating on nuclear reactors. It's a great story. Nuclear reactors are probably going to be the future, especially with data centers and so on. It's not how we invest. So the first thing you've got to decide is, well, how are you going to invest? Now, if you want to have a punt on something, feel free. You might want to bet on Leeds United not getting relegated, for instance. You can bet on anything nowadays. Poly markets will allow you to do that. But be very clear in your thinking. Clarity of thought is important. What kind of investor are you, and what are these investments for? So whilst I read those stories and they're interesting, I'm not bothered, and I don't have FOMO regarding them. Okay, if you're looking at these kind of who's raising the money, AI chip startup Mythic raised $125 million. To take on NVIDIA. Of course they do, and of course they will. But again, you can see the difference between punting on narratives and stories and a proper investment approach, which is value, growth, income, cash flow, and all of those factors. What else have we got on the news side of things? London homes in longest losing streak since financial crisis. Basically, London home prices, and I can confirm this, have gone absolutely nowhere. In the good old days of the 1980s, they'd double in 3 to 5 years. Now, probably not going to double at all, and more people are thinking, what's the point of owning property? It's becoming a bit of a vicious circle. So as my wife said, should we buy a bigger home? And then she said, well, why would we stick a load of money into something stagnant for the sake of an extra few bedrooms, which we can only be in one room at a time? That kind of mindset gets people out of an asset class. To me, there's only two asset classes: cash, which can be invested in bonds through the bank, stocks. That's it. Okay, I'm not particularly interested in property. I'm not interested in asset classes like private equity investments personally. My business does it. Personally, not interested in those. Other interesting stories: Oracle at center of tech's 500 billion AI-fueled rent spree. The AI companies are spending the way governments used to spend. They are having an inflationary impact on global markets because when they spend and they hire people and they buy up properties, that money goes into the economy, and they are now pseudo governments in terms of the kind of spending that they're doing in certain sectors. And because of that, you could have some inflationary impact, but it's good for the broader economy at the moment. We have not overheated to the point that we're thinking, when are we going to get a sharp pullback? Today, we're not thinking that. Next week, things can change relatively quickly. One other point, cocoa. So the soft commodities, cocoa has extended its rebound. Chocolate's more expensive. You'll hear the stories. But again, you've got to think to yourself, what kind of investor are you? Are you exchange traded funds? If you are, then you'd buy an exchange traded fund and commodities and keep it for 5% for the long term, just as you might on gold and oil or on Bitcoin, just as a dampener or a diversifier in your portfolio. For me, two main classes, cash and stocks. Analysts are talking about Nvidia, Tesla, Apple, Broadcom, Airbnb, Coinbase, all today. Analysts are invariably positive. Their positivity makes next to no difference to stock prices, might create a bit of a bump to the upside on the noise of it all. Most analysts are too scared to be the odd man out, and there's no win-win. If you're the one calling a sell and everybody else is saying buy, then the chances are the ones saying buy, just because of the amount of money they can push, win, and those saying sell are really putting the probability of being right to the downside, and the clients who follow them then get angry at them when the stock continues going higher. So you join the crowd and you say, hey, let's just all buy, which is why I think it's something like 85-90% of analyst calls are buys. What else have we got? OpenAI in talks with Amazon about investment that could exceed $10 billion. So these big tech companies, the amounts they're spending, if you think about it, they can't come to my company and say, we need XYZ for 10 billion. I don't have the capacity. So they buy and sell off each other and create a mini economy. Is that bad? Well, I was at Bloomberg TV the other day, and I was looking at the suppliers and the reliance on individual suppliers and customers of some of these companies. And of course, if one of them were to go under, then it would be, your biggest customer, who is 10% of your sales, goes under. Of course, that would have something of an impact, but there's no danger of any of that as far as we can see. If those things worry you, then you should definitely not even be in the stock market. Shares of Chinese chipmaker Meta X saw nearly 700% on the Shanghai B exchange. I've not even looked into how you buy stocks on the Shanghai B exchange for the last 25 odd years, unless it's listed on the New York Stock Exchange, London Stock Exchange, or NASDAQ, etc. I tend not to buy those. If you're looking to buy them indirectly through some fund, you'll be so diluted because the fund will only put 0.5% of it in there, and you'll only put max 5% of your money in that. So you're going to have 5% of 0.5%. It's absolutely pointless. And you're not getting exposure except psychological exposure. As well, what else have we got in terms of Tesla's up 3%? Well, it wobbles around quite a lot, jiggles more than my stomach does. Comcast is up 5%. United Airlines, I don't want to go near airline stocks like Warren Buffett. I'd rather stay clear of those. So, anything out of the big movers that has taken my eye? Well, strategy, bet on Bitcoin, is up 3%. The volatility is not something like Palantir I mentioned earlier, up 2.4%. Palantir is worth looking at. The only concern with Palantir and, say, Palo Alto Networks is I'm crowded out by all the other great stocks that I can own. So if it made rational sense to own endless amounts of stocks, and it doesn't, because then you're diluted by having too little money in them, then I would definitely have a Palantir and a Palo Alto. But at the moment, they're crowded out of the team. It's like think I'm playing football in the Premiership and, got great players on the sub bench. You're Real Madrid and you've got Messi. I know he doesn't play for Real Madrid. Messi on the bench. And that's what it's like. These companies are on the bench. Not for me, but there's a lot of great choice still out there, despite stock market at all-time highs. It's never a perfect time in any event ever, but things at the moment I'm happy with, certainly with the resilient type of companies I've got, and I'm not looking in the punting business. Okay, I hope you found that useful. Two things I want to tell you. One, go to the tools we've got on campaignforamillion.com, campaignforamillion.com. If you can't remember it, just put in alpeshpatel.com. It'll take you to the same place. We've got great calculators for your pensions, investments, tools which answer all your questions. That's the first thing. Second thing, as I always say, I will continue doing these for free. If you find them useful, you need to do something for free for me, which is save the videos, comment, please. That really helps a lot on the algorithms to get it to more viewers. If it goes to more viewers and I get more than 5,000 views, I continue doing them. Otherwise, I'm speaking to an empty room. There's no point. So I win because it gets more views. You win because you get to keep getting these videos, and people who would benefit from watching these videos win. It is win, win, win. Whichever side of the political spectrum you're on, we're doing good for humanity because we're helping people. As part of my campaign to teach 1 million people how to invest better, which is what campaignforamillion.com is, by adding an extra million to their pensions across their lifetimes through better investment education. That's the goal. That's the campaign. That's why I do these. But in order to know what to do and what not to do, I need to look at numbers. And if people aren't viewing, then they're not viewing. There's no point doing this. We might as well do something different instead. So please do save the video. That has the biggest bump up, I believe, on TikTok. Repost it to your audience. Repost it to X. Not your X, but, Twitter. Okay. Repost to YouTube and all of those things. Shout about it. Go out on the street, wear a placard, anything that would help get more views. Thank you all very much for doing me the honor of patiently listening to what I am saying. Thank you.